Oh, man.
Hey, Old Man on the Mat crew, this is Tony Jones coming at you with another great episode of Old Man on the Mat. Guys, I am so fired up today. As I say that every episode, I'm very excited. I'm always being excited, fired up about everything. You know, life is good. I hope you're smiling today. I hope you get a lot of things accomplished out there. And as most of you guys know, when we started this podcast, we were just trying to reach just different walks of life, different people. And I always say older people, but I'm trying to coin that phrase of more experience. How about that? That sounds good to me. And everybody's doing something out there. I believe that everyone at our stage of the game have something they can offer. And we're looking for people who are, fitness, active, everything. They're in martial arts, they're in, tennis, they're in CrossFit. They're doing something, or at least they're trying to do something. So, guys, I'm very excited today. We have a great guest going to be on here. I've seen this guy on Facebook with a lot of his posts and things he's been doing. I know he's taking some special time out of his day. We have Scott Brown here, he's an 8th degree black belt in Samurai Jujutsu. He also sits on the board and the chairman of the United States Black Belt Federation. Now, that's huge. He's also, which one of these I like a lot, he's head of the Warrior of God Martial Arts Association and the tournament circuit. So that says a lot, and that impresses me because I'm being a Christian myself. You don't have to be, but I'm a believer. And I'll tell you by that title there, I said lets me know he's a believer too. So with that, I will give you Scott Brown from Longville, Texas. How you doing out there?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm honored to be here.
Oh, thanks a lot, man. I love that accent.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I love the accent, man. That's perfect. But like I said, how old are you? How old are you, if you don't mind me asking, Scott?
Oh, goodness. I'm 53.
Oh, man, you're still a young guy.
Yeah. Well, compared to some, yes, but I feel it now more than ever.
Yeah. I was looking like every day I have a good stock in ibuprofen. So
Yeah, that's a good thing to get stock in. I'll tell you what.
Oh man, at my age, we're around the same age, and I'm doing martial arts for I'd say 42 years now, and man, I've done a lot of things. If you search some of the things I've done, a lot of different martial arts. Right now, I'm doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm like at my age, I'm the oldest guy on the mat, and it hurts. It hurts a lot.
Oh, I bet.
Oh man. Well, tell me this. Let's jump right into this because I love to get to know different people and what started them. What inspired you to start martial arts? What was your journey like when you first jumped on the mat?
Well, I'm gonna sound really stereotypical on this one. I'm like, when I was a kid, I liked watching martial arts movies. I remember as a teen going to Bloodsport, Best of the Best, things like that. Oh, I thought it was so cool. Loved everything I saw. And so, honestly, when I'm from a very small town, and when they finally opened up a martial arts school there, I just jumped at the opportunity to get in there and do it. But I didn't know I was going to get into a kind of a way of life. I mean, because martial arts, it's either for you or it's not. And once it's for you, you just can't get out of it.
Right. How old were you when you started?
Um, I was 14.
Okay, yeah, that's right. That's a ripe age, man. That's a really good age, man. Was it always into the jujitsu, the samurai jujitsu, or no?
I started actually with a lot of striking arts, Kyokushin,
Okay.
and it just kind of I over the years I've gotten a chance to cross train in different martial arts, and so it's been really good because I think honestly that's not a bad thing. It kind of expands your mind in the way you want to go.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah. When I first started also out there, I was into Kodokan Jiu-Jitsu, and my instructor, his belief was basically the same thing. He says, when you become either brown belt or black belt in one art, you have to go out there and expand because every art has holes in it, and so he was like, go out there and fill those holes, man. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I kind of agree with him on that. I mean, I've learned a ton. My instructor used to tell us, I mean, black belt wasn't the end of learning; it was just the beginning.
Hmm.
And I found out he is absolutely right.
That's pretty cool. That is, that's true. I have one of my shirts on our website. It says white belt across the front, and I wear that thing everywhere. But it is true though. I like the way you think, man. But but coming from our age, we like you said, we saw these different martial arts movies, the kung fu theater, and all that stuff. I think that was huge in impacting our whole group. You know what I mean? In that age group, we jumped on the mat to do everything. We thought we were the kung fu theater guys, right?
Right.
Now,
Well,
do you?
now,
Oh, go ahead. I'm
and I
sorry. I'm
love
sorry.
how, I'm sorry, I love how things have changed now. Now kids got John Wick.
Exactly. Exactly. You know what the coolest thing when John Wick 1 came out, I was in the movie theater with a buddy of mine, and we were sitting there calling out all the techniques. It was just funny.
Oh
We
yeah.
weren't being rude in the theater, we were talking to each other, and it was so funny. Wow. Now, do you have a school out there in Longview, Texas?
Well, I'm actually the head over a couple of different schools, but yeah, in Longview, I because I do watch over some other schools, and I've been doing a lot of administrative work for some different groups. I turned that one over to my oldest daughter. She's a fifth degree black belt, and she takes care of that school with her husband. And I that's the one I probably go to most of all to work out with. But then I do go to some of the other schools, pop in there from time to time.
Okay. Now you training right now. When you're training right now, how are you feeling out there on the mat?
Right now, I am feeling 10 years older than I am. Uh,
Okay.
Unfortunately for me, I about 6 months ago, I was in a pretty major motorcycle accident. A
Oh
guy
wow.
went left of center, drove me right off the road. I ended up with about 14 broken bones,
Holy
seven of
cow.
them in my right hand, which is my dominant hand. So I got laid up for about 2 months, and it was one of the worst things that could have happened to me because you have to re-stretch, you have to recondition, you have to get back in there. Had two surgeries and things like that. So for me, workout is a lot more challenging than it was. I am feeling pretty good because I'm slowly but surely getting back there. So whenever I get an older person who comes in and joins our group, I can tell them, hey, I can relate with you. I totally get it. I know where you're at, but just keep pushing forward.
Wow, man! And at this stage of the game, if you have a motorcycle accident like that, holy cow! Wow. And are you still? I'm assuming you're still recouping from all that right now, right?
Well, my hand is actually at probably about 65% of where it was. I mean, I was one of the guys that used to, when we do demos, they called me the sledgehammer because I used to break 14 bricks. I love breaking and everything
Holy
else.
cow!
And so now it's like, okay, you're almost starting over. These, first of all, you have to wait for the bones to heal. And I spent long years conditioning and getting strong enough so I could do all that. But I was kind of laughing because just recently I had my last appointment with the hand surgeon, and I showed him a picture, and I couldn't help it. I was in the dojo the other day, and people were working out, and they were breaking and doing stuff, and I thought to myself, I'm gonna try this. I went and got it. I have a 2 inch board. And so I went and got the 2 inch board, and I just thought, well, if I hit it with a palm heel strike, it's got a little bit of cushion, so it shouldn't damage me too much. I just want to see where I'm at. So
Right.
I did it, broke it easily. I went back to the doctor. I didn't tell him what I did. I let him take a X-ray of my hand. He took an X-ray. He was just so excited because my hand was so shattered and devastated. They had to do very new techniques on my hand just to get some of the bones to hold back together.
Wow.
And so he looked at it and he goes, "Man, that is a home run. Everything's healing up. It's getting nice and solid and everything else." And then I said, "Well, Doc, I'm sorry to tell you, I'm probably going to make you mad, but I got a picture to show him." And I showed him a picture of me in the 2 inch board. That was the biggest sigh I've ever heard in my whole life.
Oh man, he's like this guy.
Well, he has called me, and I take it humbly, though. He calls me the toughest man he's ever met because he said to me many a times, because I had three broken ribs, a broken collarbone, plus my hand was shattered and stuff like that. But he goes, I don't even see how you're walking.
Oh my
Uh,
god.
but, you know, to me, it was just, I think one of the things that got me through all that is martial arts training, period. Because, how many times have we put up with little injuries? We put up with soreness. We put up with being just so worn out, but we
Right.
keep pressing on. And that's probably what got me through. I just never gave up. To me, yeah, things hurt, but what's new? Um,
Right. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. But you know what? Like we were saying earlier, that's a part of that old school mentality. It really is.
Yeah.
You sound like you come from the time when you were probably competing every week almost.
Yeah, I come from what they call the blood and guts days of martial arts. I remember actually competing in tournaments even back in the early 80s where we didn't actually wear all that many pads. We
Yeah.
hardly had any pads on at all. I mean, many a times I actually went to a national tournament went and walked away with a permanently dislocated rib.
Oh,
So,
jeez.
yeah, I'm kind of used to it. I try to tell and share with my students today, I mean, about that kind of stuff, and they just kind of look at me in awe, and their jaw drops, and they're like, "I'm not so sure about this," and I'm like, "Trust me, your body can endure a lot and keep moving forward."
Exactly. Holy cow! And I just compare it. I don't want to be sound like we're the old guys back in my day,
Yeah.
but looking back at our days, man, you look at the stuff we went through. That's like child abuse. We can't have these kids doing that nowadays, man. We'd be out of
Oh,
business,
oh, you're not kidding. I mean, even insurance won't let us do half the stuff that we
right?
used to do, and so I tell the kids, but one of the things, and here's where it's really interesting, and I still stay old school. My kids have actually asked me, and even the parents don't care, let us go more old school. And so I've taught them to go out a little bit more all out in fighting, and I've taught them really how to handle themselves. And you know what, I found that those kids will step up to the challenge, and I've been real proud of them.
That's cool. That is cool. But but think about it. That's what kids are going to do. They'll follow your lead. If you train them right, they'll do right. You teach them to fight through the pain. They'll go through the pain. You know.
Yep,
Oh
that's
man.
absolutely true.
Oh, well, tell me this. Since we're on this subject, what's something that you see comparison to from old days to now, and the is if it's something bad that you think for the kids now that they've become so soft. What do you think?
Well, it's not so much soft; it's expectations.
Okay.
There's such a entitlement, give me mentality. I mean, back in the day, I'm being really serious. Our instructor would say, "Okay, you're testing."
Hmm.
Yes, sir, and you go test. You
Right.
never ever in the old days ever walked up to an instructor and say, "Hey, when am I testing? When am I getting the next belt? When am I going to go do this, or when do I get to go do that?" You just never did that. Today, kids and especially parents will walk up to you today, "Hey, when's my kid going to test?" when they actually learn the material that we're putting out there for them. But they
There you
don't
go.
like those answers. They want everything instant. They want things, how long is this going to last? Well, depends on how hard you train. It could be 5, 6 years before you get your black belt.
Right.
They don't like those questions. I mean, they don't like those answers anymore, but it's what it is.
It is what it is. That's right. I like that. It is what it is. And I think one of the funniest things I've ever heard being instructed from a parent is when is this season over? He wants to little Billy wants to do football. Like when
Yeah,
is the martial arts
honestly,
season?
that is what we compete against more than other martial arts schools. There's several other martial arts schools in Longview, but Longview's big enough of a city that it can actually house tons of martial arts schools. We
Okay.
compete more with football, basketball, and those kind of things. But here's the thing that really cracks me up: they get more injured in football, basketball, soccer, and all of those sports than I've ever seen in martial arts. I ran across one of my old students one time, and he had his arm in a cast. And I said, I walked up to him and said, "What happened to you?" And he said, "Man, I tripped up when I was playing football and I broke my arm." I said, "Do me a favor. Make sure you tell everybody where you got that broken arms because they're going to assume it was in martial arts. It wasn't, it was in football."
Oh man. Oh man, but that's true though. Yeah, most people think martial arts is we're beating the crap out of each other all day and blood sports and everything else. I don't want my kid getting punched in the face. Well, that's rare if he's good.
That's really true right there.
That's right. Now, how long are your classes usually? Are they like an hour, 2 hours?
My classes are typically about an hour long, but I have in between my 2 hour long classes, I have a 30-minute conditioning extra workout class that's there. So I divide up kind of beginners. I divide up my advanced because we try at our dojos to give as much personal attention to everybody as we possibly can. So in order to do that,
Right.
even though I have on staff probably 5, 6 black belts who show up on any given night, that way we have plenty of black belt one-on-one instruction, so they get the highest quality of instruction that they can. But I still do the old-fashioned conditioning classes, because honestly, your martial art goes out the window when your wind and everything else goes out the window too.
Amen. Amen. That's the truth there. Because nowadays I see on the mat there's not a lot of, and I won't say all of them. I won't throw everybody on the bus, but I see some of these things and I don't see a lot of conditioning in there. It's just they'll go through katas as their conditioning, but they don't do the push-ups, sit-ups, the running, and the old school jumping jacks and rolls and all that stuff.
Right. I agreed. I mean, we even do at our dojo some things that are really considered old school, because we even do some bone strengthening, which is conditioning of the bones. It breaks them down a little bit, just microfractures, but they build in so much denser than before. Um, so because I've gone to tournaments, and well, I'll just use my daughter as an example. My daughter, she's very well conditioned and everything else, and she went out to this one tournament and she wasn't planning on fighting. She's, like I said, she's a black belt, and there was this girl that was at this tournament, and she's going to the Olympics.
Ooh,
And of course, Olympics is a lot lighter contact than what we're used to. But
right.
she went out there, and this girl needed an exhibition fight. And I said, Aaron, just take it easy on her, get in there and fight her. And so what was funny is this girl led off with a roundhouse kick. Now my daughter just came up, and we do old school blocks, and she blocked with her shin, and the two of them clashed shins. The girl, I did not know this, had on shin guards. She had on pads.
Hmm.
You want to guess who walked away limping after that? They
I
had to
bet you I
stop
know.
the fight right then and there, because this girl could not continue because she was not properly conditioned, and she's going to the Olympics.
How? Oh my
That's
gosh,
what I
how?
said. How?
That's that contact, man. That contact that you condition those bones. That is, oh my gosh.
Well, it's not the only time I saw it. I worked out with a group that's in Tyler, Texas, which is not too far from me. We were going up to an international tournament. I just came over to train with them for a while. We decided, since we're going to the same tournament, we might be riding together. We might as well train together. So I asked them, "What are you guys doing on your conditioning for your bones and for your body to be able to absorb those hits, take what you're doing, and keep going?" "Oh, we don't do that." Well, one of their guys, believe it or not, he broke his shin bone at that tournament with almost the same type of conditions I just described to you. And again, I kind of look at
What?
them, and they kind of blew me off when I said, "Well, we do this and we do that to condition." And I kind of didn't want to get ugly with them, but I kind of wanted to look at them and say, "Well, what do you think about that now?"
Right, right. A little too late now. You
Yeah.
got to get back to the drawing board.
Well,
Holy
honestly,
cow.
and for that poor guy, I don't mean this bad, but his martial arts career was just about over because it was a very severe leg break. Um,
Wow.
so it's like, I tell people, and this is kind of our motto in the dojo. It's better to receive the pain in the dojo than outside the dojo.
There you go. There you go. Exactly. And plus the mentality of seeing of getting your bone broke like that could take him out of the game mentally because now he's concerned about that for every time he competes.
Well, yeah, but like I said, he was done after that. He pretty
Wow.
much left martial arts and didn't come back to it. Um, so I again emphasize that to all of my students. I mean, it just is what's there was an old days, and this is what it was called back when we were in Kyokushin. Kyokushin's nickname was the school of the hard bodies.
Okay.
And because we did a lot of that conditioning, and I said, you get this idea or this mentality, and a lot of people have it, that we're supermen. And I don't think it's we're supermen. I think, or women, because there's a lot of really ladies out there that I totally respect in martial arts too,
Right.
but they're conditioned. And it's like, unless it was this, honestly, the motorcycle accident was the very first time I really broken any bones. I had never really had that problem before. And I think it's a lot of times it was because of my conditioning. Now I have to recondition everything to get back there. But I really do. I would tell people, highly recommend that you get in there and get conditioning, because it's going to save you from a major injury somewhere down the line.
Right. Right. That's pretty awesome. I like that though, because think about it at your age, I'm not saying you're old because by no way I think I'm older than you are. But you can take some pain, right? You're not, you like you did the motorcycle accident. You probably got up, fixed yourself up a little bit and moved on.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. My kids they nickname me Hulk
I
because
love
it
it.
seems like the more intense things get, the more stronger I get. But they said this because I remember sitting through the very first Avengers movie, and one of the Avengers where the Hulk just smiles, and all of a sudden I get punched in the arm, and my kids are going, "Oh my goodness, Dad, that's you! That's why you smile every time you fight."
Oh my God. You're not just psycho, right?
No, I'm not a psycho. I'm actually pretty controlled. I mean, like in our black belt test, I know a lot of people when they test for black belt, they like to beat down the person. We just push you to your limit. We're going to take you and see where you're going to quit at.
There you go.
And so we don't. I'm really actually very controlled. Um, but I can fight full contact if somebody wants me to go full contact with them and things like that. But I think that's what life is, because when we go out on the street or you meet somebody in the dark alley and they're going to rob you, they're not going to take it easy on you.
Exactly.
They're going to come after you, and you've got to prepare yourself to be ready for that exact. And I tell people, and maybe I get a lot of criticism on this, and I got a lot of people in martial arts today that probably don't like me very much, but I tell them, I said, look, if you're not training your people to be successful on the street, you're doing them a big disservice. They're going to walk out there on that street with full of confidence, and then a seasoned street fighter is just going to eat their lunch.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Wow. But that's so true. Because I see this with a lot of arts. I don't want to bash arts out there. I'm glad people are doing it. You know what I mean? Start somewhere, do something. But I do still see a lot of times it's more kata based than
Yeah.
actually going in being self defense and to be able to defend yourself. Because there will be a time you're going to be tested one way or another.
That's so true, and I can't emphasize that enough. And again, I'm not bashing martial arts. I just think sometimes we've got too many people out there who are trying to do this for the money,
Hmm.
and their quality goes down.
Big
Um,
time.
I've
Big time.
watched a couple of. I get invited to a lot of places, and I'm not trying to criticize them. I'm really
No,
not.
of course not.
But
No, I get
I
it.
get invited to a lot of places, and I've sat on some boards and things like that. And I've witnessed what some of these instructors do, and they have a test for like 3 degrees for every belt, and
What?
and so they're using it as a money gain, but
Yeah.
they make it easy, and they charge way more money than I do, and they're a lot lower belt and a lot lower quality. And I'm not trying to be arrogant and say that. I'm just being very honest, because we all know what a McDojo is.
Yes, sir. We
But
all
they're
know what goes.
charging way more than I am, and their dojo is filled with students. But I think it's because it's easy.
It's easy.
Everybody wants
It's
the
easy.
prestige of being a black belt, but do you really want to go through what it takes to be a real black belt?
A lot of people don't. A lot of people don't. I don't know about you, but I see some of these kids in grocery stores, like 7, 8 years old, walk around with black belt, and I just sit there and think, it's such a disservice to that kid. You know.
Yeah, don't get me started on that one. There, that would be a Pandora's box right there. About, I've gone to tournaments, and that's the reason why we even started our Warrior of God series tournament, is because there's too much sport karate out there, and I'm not putting down sport karate. A lot of people like it,
Yeah.
but I watched at a sport karate tournament a guy grab, and that was aluminum sword, so please understand that was safe
Mm.
to grab. But he grabbed an aluminum sword by its blade, jumped over it, and won first place. And I thought that was the most ridiculous thing I just saw.
Okay, true.
And so, we're trying to move back to more traditional martial arts the way it was, because in the old days, I had a friend, his name was Greg. Unfortunately, Greg passed away with cancer. I competed against Greg all the time. We beat the crud out of each other, but we would go afterwards, go out and eat. We had a great time. We were the
Yeah.
bestest friends. We're
Yeah.
really kind of weird because our idea of bonding is punching each other in the face. But
Right.
it just, today's world is they want it easy, they want it simple, they want it fast,
Yep.
but that isn't martial arts. I mean, anything worth in life having is worth earning, taking the time to do it right, really develop your craft, because they miss the word martial arts. There's an
Mm.
art to it. It takes you a while to learn it and really get it. And so, some of the older guys like we are, that have been in it for quite some time, we've kind of got there.
Yeah.
And I do look at the kids, and this actually happened. I had a student, his name was Colin, and we took Colin to a tournament, and Colin was a blue belt, and he ran into a kid who was a second degree black belt.
Okay.
And Colin, he ended up fighting this kid in an exhibition match. He beat that kid profusely. Now, here's the kicker. When he talked to the kid afterwards, he asked him how long he'd been in martial arts. And this second degree black belt looked at him and said, well, I've been in, and I forget how long it was, a couple of years. And he had been in the exact same amount of time as my student. So afterwards, I had a chance to talk to Colin, and I said, "Well, you beat that kid," and he goes, "Yeah, I did." And I said, "Well, you talked to me about moving up quicker," and he goes, "Sir, I take all of that back. You just keep me going at the rate I'm going," because he recognized quality over quantity.
Exactly. That's a good lesson for him right there. Right there. Holy cow. But that's it's just to me and seeing these things. And like you said, we came with the ranks. It was I won't say a long draw, but it was a painful draw. You went in and you got I won't say hurt, but you put in the work, right? So
Oh
you
yeah,
have that confidence you'll be able to go to a tournament, which we were fighting almost every weekend, and you can do well because you're not afraid of the pain, you're not afraid of the hard work because you put in the work already to be there.
yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, I tell my kids, I said, "Look, guys, I have never given any of you a belt. Every one of you who've ever gotten a belt stepped up and earned it." And that's the feeling of pride, and that's the feeling that a lot of kids need today, and even some adults,
Oh
because they're
yeah,
given so much stuff. They're
yeah,
given this, given that. And when they actually know that they earned something, that they, through their own blood, sweat, and tears, grabbed something and held on to it, it means something a whole lot more to them than if you just kind of baby them along.
yeah. Everybody gets a trophy. You showed up today. Here's your trophy. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I'm like I told you before, I'm doing Brazilian Jiu Jitsu now. I never liked Brazilian Jiu Jitsu just because I think it was the people that I ran into. And I talked about that on one of my podcasts. Excuse my friends, everybody was just jerks that I ran across. Everybody was macho jerks. And I just like, because I'm always liking to learn new things. But then I found a school, Lake County Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and I walked in there. Everybody was nice. But these guys were old school. They put in the work, brother.
Right.
I'm telling you. And I'm like, wow, every class I go there 4 days a week, and I feel like I've been run through the ringer every day, and I love that feeling. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I can totally relate with you, but I'm not going to put it on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I mean, to be honest with you, you have those kind of instructors everywhere. I
Yeah,
I run into
fair.
ego everywhere. But
Yeah.
I like the people who just, I've had the chance over the years to run into what we would call legends in martial arts.
Hmm.
But one thing I've really noticed about the legends are completely humble.
You're right.
Um,
That's right. That's right.
I've gotten to meet Michael Jai White. I've gotten to meet Bill Superfoot Wallace. A lot of really, people who really made the industry.
Yes.
And these guys, they treat you just like a human being, humble. They're there. We're all learning together. We may be on the different place in our journey, but we're all together. It's the guys that get out there and just like, well, I got it all. Those are the
Yeah.
ones you need to watch out for.
Exactly. That's pretty cool, man. Because that is the spirit of the old warriors, man. That really is. You don't have to prove you're better than everybody else by being a jerk. You prove it on the mat. You prove it in your lifestyle. You can be nice to everybody. You don't have anything to prove.
Right.
Now, is that how you got into the Warrior of God Martial Arts Association because of the mentality there?
Well, actually, I started the association. That's my brand. Like I said, I go overseas a lot. I've been invited. I think I can't remember if it's been 7 different countries we've been into. We get invited into a lot of different countries. Matter of fact, China, right before the Olympics in 2008, they were asking for some martial arts demonstration teams to come. And a lot of people put in their application for it, and a friend of mine put in my application for it. I didn't even know we
Oh
got
man,
chosen.
wow, that's
So
awesome.
that's just the whole thing right there. um so yeah, I kind of started the Warrior of God brand because being a Christian, we do ministry and things like that, and that doesn't seem like that necessarily meshes in martial arts. But honestly, I tell people there's two types of martial artists. There's everybody serves somebody. If you're just a person that serves yourself, you're a mercenary.
Mm.
But a martial artist, we kind of have some different ethics. I mean, I really like the philosophy of Genshin Funakoshi. Genshin Funakoshi said the ultimate aim in martial arts is not in winning or losing, it is in the perfection of one's character. And that always stuck with me. And so, as we're doing things, I'm telling the kids, yes, I'm teaching you to defend yourself, but I'm teaching you more about life, how to treat other people, how to live your life, and be able to look yourself in the mirror at the end of the day than I am about anything else. It may be in disguised as punching or throwing or tapping somebody out, but really there's a whole lot more to it than just that.
That is awesome. I love the way you think, man. You are old school. You're not an old man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're a more experienced man, right? That's what
You can call me old man. I'm getting used to it because, I got grandkids now, and I've got my daughters are grown and everything else, and so they like to tease me. I mean, I even told them that I was coming on this podcast, and they laughed at the title.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it is what it is, but you know what? I don't really consider that a negative thing. These gray hairs, I earned them.
You earned it, my
Of course, I
brother.
tease with my kids. You gave me most of them, but
They don't
these
know
gray
that yet.
hairs, I've earned them, and I've got that wisdom that came with them, and some of it I had to learn the hard way. Some of it I learned from other people, and so I tried to do the same. I try to pass on the wisdom and the things that I've learned, not only to my kids but to my students and everything else. So I don't mind being the old guy anymore, honestly.
I like that. I'm gonna steal all that. You know that. I'm gonna put all
Oh, go right ahead. I'm doesn't bother me.
That's awesome. That's like I said before, I'm the oldest guy on the mat now, and I came up with the old man on the mat. It actually started while I was going to journal my martial arts journey, and it just snowballed into a podcast. Old man on the mat. So I'm with you there, brother.
Well, and you gotta one thing that I think too many martial artists don't do is just use a sense of humor.
Oh,
If you're an older guy like I am and you've been a black belt for years, what happens to your black belt?
hmm,
It starts to if you get one of these black belts, they start to rub off and they kind of
fade a
start to
little
turn
bit.
white again
Yeah.
because they deteriorate. I had a kid walk up to me one time and goes, "Hey, mister, I'm a white belt just like you."
Like, I don't think we're just alike, but I appreciate it.
No, I just laugh because it just cracks me up. And of course, one of the fun things is now I had two daughters. And so my oldest daughter, she has now two grandsons. And so I absolutely love wrestling around with them and I love grappling with them and we play and everything else. So it's to me the greatest thing. I just love it. I laugh with it because you learn so much and if you keep your mind open, even the most insignificant person in your dojo might just teach you something if you pay attention.
That's beautiful, man. That's old school right there. There it
Yep.
is. There it is in a nutshell. Holy cow. Now, by you being, like I said, you're active. You're out there doing this thing. You started at 14 years old. Now, I know the answer. I'm going to ask anyway. Martial arts helped you now to play with your grandkids. So you're active all the time, right?
Yes.
Now, would you have done anything else added to your martial arts to help you stay active?
And actually, I get people go, I don't see how you do it. I'm constantly moving. I'm always going somewhere, doing something, and things like that. I've got some people who look at me and say, "How do you stay this active?" And honestly, that's through family support and things like that. Because as my kids were growing up and things like that, we'd be traveling 6 hours to a tournament. And
Mm,
I asked them because, being in a car so for 6 hours isn't the most fun thing to do. And I asked them, I said,
right.
"Do you guys still enjoy doing this? Do you want to do this?" And I get the idea is yes, we still want to do this. And so, if it wasn't for their support, I probably wouldn't be as active as I am. But now that they're older and they're adults, I can be even more active because they've taken certain weight off of me. I don't have to totally run the dojo. I don't have to totally watch over each and every class. I have my black belts to do that. So that allows me to do some things and frees me up to do things that I've always wanted to do. But of course, what do I want to do? stay in martial arts, train a little bit more myself. So it's great.
Oh man, that is true. That is true. So you've done a whole bunch of different arts too. Because what does samurai jujitsu come from, or is
Well,
that something?
samurai jiu-jitsu is actually a combination of the striking arts and atame jiu-jitsu, which is Japanese jiu-jitsu. Um, of course, I did Atame Jiu Jitsu. I did Kyokushin. I've done what's called the Shidokai, which is really, I think, just an offshoot of somebody's Shotokan because the katas
Hmm.
were all the same and everything else. So I've done several different styles. I even learned a little bit of Taekwondo from one guy. Learned a little bit of kung fu. Um, I'm kind of can't think of any of the other ones that I've really done, but I've enjoyed just having a nice, rounded martial arts education. And so when I get the chance to go to somewhere and learn something new, I mean, I am all over it because when you get kind of to this age, and I'm an 8th degree black belt, which does not mean I'm done. I mean, I tell my students this: even when I'm a 10th degree black belt someday, I will still be learning. And
Right.
so I always am seeking out a new way of doing something more efficiently, faster, better, stronger. And that's been kind of the goal. I think we've been pretty successful for it because we now train first responders in self defense, and
Okay.
what I've been
Nice.
told is our stuff is really streetwise. In other words, it's very powerful and effective, and so that makes me pretty happy.
That's pretty cool. That's really cool. And our Leos, they need a lot of help out there. I'm telling you on the street, and that's pretty cool what you're doing for them. That's
Well, I
awesome.
think it's necessary because I try to, especially police officers, fire and rescue, those guys have to put up with a lot, and they get, if they do anything, they get criticized for it,
Yep.
but they have to know how to handle themselves. And so, yeah, I'm glad to be a part of that, and I'm glad to get in there and help them get to the point and even show them. I've even kind of started. It's not a system. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to start a brand new system in this. I've even kind of started what's called a combatives class because what I
Okay.
do in the combatives class is take real world practical self defense, but you have to marry that with the law of the land. I know there's a lot of
Mm.
guys out there that says, "Hey, it's better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6." Well, that's really nice when you're actually judged by 12 and have to spend the rest of your life in prison because you didn't know when to
Exactly.
stop.
Right. Exactly. How long have you been running that program, that combative system?
We've probably been running that for about 5 years now, as
Okay.
in just, it's a no nonsense thing. I'm not saying kata isn't good. I tell everybody that ever comes through the class, you really do need a good base style to base your self defense off of. It's a mental mindset that what you're trying to learn. But you just, if you take kata out of it and we look at the pure self defense end of it, that's probably really what was great. And a lot of people didn't even get this, but I kind of did this. When we kind of had the riots going on for a while,
Mm.
I went all over trying to find as much footage of people had during the riots. And we looked at different scenarios that were taking place. And we looked at what did they do right? What did they do wrong? What could they have done better? And so by looking at some of that stuff, we really tried to move ourselves to the point where, you know, hey, let's take our ego out of it. You guys get in a crowd and there's a bunch of you, run, get out of that situation. That's the
There you
best
go.
thing you can do. If you have to stand and fight, then you better go to no nonsense, take them down and out as quickly as possible. So we really started to study this stuff so we could do things. But the more we got into it, the more control we found over the other people. We found out what's the best things to do, how to control the situation, and situate and things like that. And I think it made a big impact on the people who were learning it because I got a lot of feedback coming back from these guys going, "Yeah, man, I tell you what, I went into this situation. All I had to do," and they were talking about like a Cody Gaesh little thing. All I
Yeah.
did was put him in a little wrist twist, and he stopped immediately. I'm like,
Okay.
"Yay, we didn't have to go any further." That's
There you
kind of
go.
what we're looking for.
That's cool. Wow. Did they reach out to you because your name is so big out there, or you sought those guys out to train them that system?
No, what actually happened was I ran across a guy who did a lot of training of police officers. Unfortunately, he's uh, passed now.
Oh wow.
His name was Jay Esriel. And anyway, basically, he got my son in law into helping him out because my son in law was a third degree black belt at the time. Unfortunately, Jay passed, so my son in law, Matt, started taking over teaching. And that's when I started getting into looking at what they were teaching first responders and things like that. But Matt later went through the police academy and became a police officer himself. So a lot of people come to us because they know Matt, and so other police officers see how he handles himself. And one of the things that really kind of cracked me up because you know I don't know. Maybe police is different, and I'm not putting down the police. I'm really not a person who is just all over the police. But
Yeah.
Matt is one of the best guys I've ever met in de-escalation techniques. He rarely has to go in and put his hands on somebody, and when he does something very fast, simple, and effective. And they looked at him because there's so many people they would have to strap down into chairs and things like that. But Matt never had to do any of those kind of things to people.
Wow.
He could get them to calm down, or if not, he could put them in, like I said, a Cody Gayesh or some kind of hold, get them to sit down, and made things a whole lot easier. And so when the guys saw him doing this, and he's not getting excessive force thrown all over him, and he's not getting all of that kind of calls on him, they're like, can you teach us some of that? And so we naturally have people kind of jumping into our dojo going, hey, we'd like to learn.
That's smooth. Yeah. I think because I have two nephews who are police officers too, and they always say, I'm out here in Illinois. So they say they need all the help they can get. They don't get a lot of training in certain areas. They don't know how to de escalate things. And, that's why you start seeing a lot of these cops getting in trouble for pulling their weapons too soon because they don't get the training, you know.
Well, I agree. And then I think there's a certain mentality out there that I do disagree with. I mean, the different, don't get me wrong, not all police departments are the same.
No, not at
I
all.
I think the one that my son in law in is dynamic, but I've seen some of them. Now, what I trained my son in law to do, and this is what I train all of my guys to do, is be reflective. But a lot of police departments are like, I want you to make a decision, I want you to defend it, I want you to go with it. And they don't like it when certain guys look back at situations and get reflective and say, what could I have done better? How could I made this smoother? They don't like that. And so I guess in some ways some of them won't really agree with the way I do things, but I'm not going to change the way we do things. I think it's the better way to do things.
And it keeps everybody safe. It brings your officers home safe most of the time. That's
Totally
the plan.
agree on that one.
That's the plan. That's pretty cool, though, man. I mean, because I respect police officers so much, and regardless of where they're from, they have a job that I don't want to do. You know what I
Right.
mean? I don't want to be on that front line. I don't think I'd be a good cop. I'm the guy to say, no matter what I know, I'm going to take off running first. You got to catch me, and then we'll start defending ourselves from that point. Now, you've been out of Texas. I know you love guns.
Okay. Yeah.
He says, okay.
Almost a given, I'll be honest with you.
Right. He said, and your next point is?
Well, no, seriously. I mean, if you don't know, Texas has per capita more gun owners than anywhere else. And not only more gun owners, but more gun owners per person than almost anywhere else.
I love it. That's awesome. One of our podcasts, we had a guy, Alex Cogan, on here. He owns Misha Training. And we had a great conversation about guns because that's my second love. When if I'm not at the dojo or on the mat somewhere, I'm at a range. I love guns. And one of the questions, and I'll ask you too, because you're doing a lot of training in the police department. I know you train a lot of women. Now, do you encourage women to have handguns, get handgun training, conceal and carry? I don't know how they do the law if they were conceal and carry, but do you train them to have guns as one of their fallback on?
I actually have a licensed firearm instructor that's a part of our dojo.
Okay.
I do encourage women to go back and get firearms training. One of the reasons why, and this will crack you up a little bit, I had a lady who was a mom of one of our kids in the dojo. And I said, this is not just for kids, adults. It's really good for this. It's really good for women. She goes, I don't really need it. I've got protection. I said, really? And she goes, yeah, I've got a gun. I said, oh, cool. What do you got? Because I'm a gun enthusiast. I know guns well. And she goes, it's black. And I said, okay. And she goes, it's at home. And and again, in my head, I'm going, what good is it doing you at home? You don't even know what kind of gun it is. You don't know what caliber it is. It is clear you don't even know how to draw it, shoot it, or anything else. That is the most deadly combination you could honestly put into a person.
Oh
So
yeah.
this isn't just with women. I tell everybody today, it's nice to own a gun. It's even nice to carry it, but for goodness sake, people, learn how to use it.
Yes,
If you
sir.
don't, you're going to be in a very bad spot real quick.
Real quick. You pull that thing out, don't know what you're doing, that gun's getting taken from you.
Yeah,
Simple as that. Now,
that
do
is
you
correct.
do any other kind of training like, using knives or mace and all that kind of stuff too?
Well, one of the places that we really go to most of all, and they got me into doing this, and I really actually changed the way I do knife techniques totally. But we, for the longest time, I think we've been to the Philippines probably 7, 8 times. Well, actually, I'm being told no, it's 10 times. Uh,
Okay, wow.
you don't see, but my wife is here, and so whenever I make mistakes, she still corrects me. So
Well, that's her
anyway,
job and she's perfect. That's
yeah, she's
awesome.
perfect. That's right, she's perfect. Thank you for getting me those points.
Yes,
But
sir.
anyway, we go to the Philippines. We've been there over 10 times, and every time we go there, even though I work out there and we do our martial arts demonstration, I've had a lot of Filipinos go, "Hey, would you like to learn some Filipino martial arts?" And I'm like, "Hey, yes, we would." So
Right?
we've gotten some private trainings and everything else. So I really started getting into Kali and looking at how they do knife fighting. And one of the things that drew me to it is because I do kenjutsu, which is sword training, but
Hmm.
their Kali, their strikes and their cuts and everything is pretty much just dead on with Japanese swordsmanship.
Mm,
Now they have a little bit different. They don't use a long sword, they use a short sword. But their mentality towards a knife was so much different than what I was used to. So I really got into learning a lot of knife fighting and such from some friends that I had in the Philippines. So I'm giving them a big shout out there right now.
that's
But
awesome.
anyway, that's what really got me into the knife fighting and that. So yes, I kind of do the full gambit because you kind of want to be armed sometimes because
Yeah.
it's the little things that can get you through. I mean, today's issues is you've got so many active shooters out there. They'll go
Yeah.
into somewhere. You know, I hate to tell them this, but I'm not going to just be a person that absorbs bullets. I'm gonna if I have to confront somebody, it's going to be a fight. If
There
you're
you
going to
go.
take me down, you're going to have to earn it.
That's
Um,
right.
so I tell a lot of people is just don't make it easy on anybody. You've got so as much training as you can put in and know what to do. That's the best thing you can do, especially in the if you really think about it, Israel, because of the violence that was taking place with all of their people,
Yeah.
required their people to learn a martial art.
Oh, I didn't know they taught martial arts. Really? I didn't know that. I thought it was all weapons. That's pretty cool.
No, that's what Krav Maga really is.
Yeah.
And if
And
I
they
said it
required them
wrong,
to
I
learn.
apologize. But they required their people. I'm really at the point, and this is, people are going to argue with me. And again, I'm going to probably get canceled for what I'm about to say, but I don't care. I think
Right?
we need to do that in America too. There's too
Yes.
much crime going
Yes.
on that if
Yeah.
we just had people who knew how to do basic self defense, a lot of that nonsense would stop.
Would stop. We're not victims anymore. That's what we need. People who are not victims. That's right, brother. That will stop it in a heartbeat. And I see a lot of these videos online, and because like I said, my nephews are police officers, and I'm always watching things in Chicago, and I see things, and I'm thinking, none of this was happening with an armed society, right? It,
Right.
it it would help a lot. Now, when you train women, this is something I think is because I train women for years. Women's self defense, special seminars and stuff just for women. What are some of the misconceptions you think a lot of women come in when they're learning martial arts or trying to learn martial arts, in your opinion?
Well, they think they can't hurt anybody. They don't think they could be very effective. Um, and then they meet my two daughters. And I really think, I'm not saying that men shouldn't train women and things like that, but really today anymore, because of this mentality that you get with a lot of women, I let my daughters take over and they learn self defense and things for them. One time, and I'm not kidding with you, this was before my daughter actually married her husband, Matt. We had they called them debutantes. They were from a certain high school. These are your girls. They're very preppy, very nice looking, very
Mm-hmm.
feminine, all that. Not
Mm-hmm.
saying that all the other girls weren't, but they were your girly girls, if you know what I'm saying.
Yep, I do.
And they didn't really, because my daughter was humble, they kind of treated her bad.
Mm.
But, we said to them, look, if you guys want a free self defense seminar, we love to do it for you. Just come on in. So as they're walking in the building, my daughter was practicing and she ended up throwing Matt good 6 feet across the room. All of them opened their eyes real big. They realized that if somebody my daughter's size could do that, maybe they could too. But they really actually started listening to her quite a
Yeah.
bit. My wife does martial arts. She's also an 8th degree black belt. So, I don't mind. I will put my 2 cents in worth if they want to hear a guy's point of view. But a lot of women, I think we as martial artists need to find a lot more women to teach women self defense because they really feel like, well, women don't think that guys understand where they're coming from. And we may not totally understand where they're coming from, but women know that other women know where they're coming from. And so when they tell them, hey, you can do this, and then show them that they can do it, and then that inspires a lot of women. I mean, honestly, my wife was probably the biggest inspiration when we would go overseas because we would have a ton of women who've been kind of suppressed in different cultures
Mm.
see a very active woman, a very strong woman, a woman who could do self defense, and they flock to her like nobody's business. I really think it's yeah, maybe the women have some preconditioned ideas. I think, but some of us guys have some of those preconditioned ideas on teaching women. And so I think it's really good to involve women in martial arts, not only because they're good at it,
Yep.
but also because they really do help bring other women to where they need to be. They can explain things in a
That's
way
true.
that other women understand.
That's true. Get a guy coming in. We're like, just do it this way. Let's punch something.
That's right.
No, explain it to me.
Yeah, and they do a really good job about doing that. I mean, my daughter, the one funny thing about Erin, I'll give her a lot of kudos for. Now we do a thing that's in our tournaments that is so old school that I'm sure people are about to gasp when I say it. We have what's called a super fight, and anybody can enter the super fight as long as you're over the age of 18. It doesn't matter what rank you are, white belt or black belt. Doesn't matter what gender you are, you understand that you're coming in to almost a full contact fight. You're coming in with black belt rules, and it's going to be tough.
Mm.
My daughter, I'm going to tell you right now, she's won several of those. And not only
Wow.
it really hurts a lot of guys' egos when this young lady gets in there and beats them. They're like, "What?" And they don't like it much. But women need to be empowered and understand that they can learn to stand toe to toe with a guy. It is
Yep.
possible. Now, I understand that, if there's a big size difference, then yeah, it's going to be a whole lot harder. You have to fight a lot smarter,
Mm.
but it is possible. And so, one of the things I would tell any lady out there is yes, you can. You might not think you can right now, but yes, you can. It may take you a while to get to where you want to be, but keep moving forward if that's what you want to do.
That's cool. I liked what you think. I said that several times already. If you haven't noticed, I love the old school spirit, man. I love it. Now, if you and this is maybe calling you out a little bit or having you pull from the hip here. Which do you think's the best art out
Okay, that's not fair.
there? I know it wasn't.
There isn't really a best art out there. Let me say it like this, because you have Taekwondo, you have Japanese karate, you have Atame, or you have Japanese Jiu Jitsu, you have Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. All of them are centered off of a mindset idea of self defense. The problem with any art is sink yourself all the way into it. If you
Mm.
do anything just half-hearted, you're not going to be very good at it. And I see a lot of people just try to take the easy way out of martial arts and you just can't do it. I am not going to criticize any martial art because I've seen very very effective taekwondo guys. I've seen very very effective karate guys. I've seen very very effective um Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys. I've seen guys who are very, very effective. So the question you have to ask yourself is this, if you've got effective people in all of these arts, then why is a lot of arts not effective? And again, it goes back to what we're talking about is you're not putting your heart into what you're doing. You're not really trying to learn something. I don't again, and this again, people get upset. The reason why I'm not a big sport karate fan is because you're just playing it as a sport. And I think the sport is killing the art. When you're
Mm,
grabbing a sword and jumping over it and you think that's good quality martial arts, you've missed the boat.
it's a good show.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that's
But,
pretty
you know,
impressive. But no,
so I really don't have one martial art that I'm out there going, ooh, this is it, because I know you get a lot of guys out there going, yeah, keto's the way to go, or da da da.
yeah,
No, you really got to study, you've got to train, and you've got to make it your own. You've got to learn to be the master of your martial art. And again, I'm not trying to get into titles or things like that, but you've got to learn to do things for yourself. And a lot of people try to copy one person or copy somebody else, but that's really not what you do. Is you take, because I'll be honest now, I weigh about, let's just say, about 240 pounds.
okay.
I've got a little bit of muscle on me. I have a student. I hope she doesn't get mad that I say this. Her name is Meg. I would be surprised if Meg weighs over 125 pounds.
She'd probably be
But
happy with
here's the deal.
125.
I would never expect Meg to do things or react the same way I would, because she's got to react for her body frame. She's got to react for the threat that's coming at her. For her, somebody who's much bigger, about my size, is going to be a giant threat to her. But to
Right.
me, somebody about my size is pretty much equal odds. So am I going to handle that different? Yes. So
Absolutely.
every student really has to look at their own body frame, look at their techniques, look at what works for them. When you find that and get into that groove, you're going to have, I don't care what style you are, an effective martial art. If you don't do that, you're going to get a rude awakening.
That's awesome. That is true, man. And philosophy is perfect, man. That is perfect. Now, are you seeing a lot of older people coming into your dojo?
No, I really don't
Yeah.
anymore. Most dojos are, their whole support is kids. I mean, if
Yeah.
I were to count
Yeah.
how many kids I have compared, and going all the way up into teenagers compared to adults, that they're probably at least 80% of the business.
Yeah.
I would love to see more adults get back into it. I've seen older guys get into it who loved it. And again, I'll just say to it, if you're expecting to get into martial arts at age 50 and become the next Bruce Lee, I'm not saying you can't do it. You've got a tough road ahead of you.
You got a rude awakening coming. You
Yeah.
know.
But it's still just get in there and get started. Walk down that journey a little bit.
Okay. Now, some advice for somebody, our age who wants to get into martial arts. I go in there and like I said, I'm always hurting, but I enjoy it with my age. And I think I have a little edge up, not on the skill set, but the mindset because I've been in martial arts forever. So going to a
Right.
different art and it's okay. I'm used to the game. So if someone walking on the street, you just touched on this a little bit, walking up the street, I'm a 50-year-old guy. I think I want to try something. What's your advice to them before they walk on that mat or as they're walking on the mat?
Well, my advice is take it slow. I mean, again, you're building an art, you're building a craft, and you can't rush it. You start with the basics, because to me, the most important things you'll ever learn in martial arts is actually in the white belt, yellow belt, and orange belt areas, the beginning areas. And it doesn't matter which martial art you're in, your beginning is your meat and potatoes of what your martial art. If you will make that the strongest thing you have, you will be effective. So don't look at, well, I have to get to a brown belt or I have to get to a black belt, because I've learned some crazy things. I've learned to do a 360. I've even learned to do, I don't know if it was a 480 or whatever, roundhouse kick. You know how many times I've used that in a fight? Zero.
Right.
Never have
You'd probably
used
shock the
any
guy.
of the really advanced techniques in a fight.
Right.
But in the fight, what do I always go back to? I always go back to the meat and potatoes, and it's the simple things like the blocks, the counters, things like that. That's the most important. And I don't care what age you are, you can do those things.
Gotcha. That's true. That is cool. Because I know I can't do no flying kicks no more. Woo! I told a buddy of mine, he said, "You still think you can win a fight if someone jumped you on the street?" I said, "Hey, back in the day, I'd win pretty. I'm gonna win this time, but it's gonna be ugly. You know I've been in a fight."
Well, that's the I want the t-shirt. I saw this t-shirt, it says, I'm an old guy now. I don't have the time to play with you. I'm just going to hurt you fast and quickly.
That's right. That's right. Before my sciatic start hurting.
That's right.
Well, I tell you, Scott, this has been awesome, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on with us. And I know you're a busy man with all the stuff you're doing. But before we go, how can people reach out to you? How can people get in contact with you?
Well, I'm on social media like Facebook. If you want to look up the Warrior of God stuff, you can find me, or you can just look me up. I'm a pretty personable guy, and you can reach out to me. Um, just Scott Brown. Find me. Look for the guy in Longview, Texas. That's me. There's a ton of Scott Browns out there.
Yeah, that's a common, like Tony
Um,
Jones, very common.
I don't really have a whole bunch of websites that I've got up. I mean, I'm a pretty simple guy. I'm not trying to be one of these guys that have this big national brand or anything. I'm just focused on simple, effective martial arts. But you can find me on Facebook, or you can look up the Makoto Dojo. That's our dojo in Longview, and get a hold of us. And if anybody wants to, just I love to collaborate with other martial artists. I mean, one of the things I've enjoyed doing is Century will have like the martial arts super show. I like going to
Yeah.
that, not because I care about all the stuff there, but I like to meet all the different martial arts, talk to them, learn from them, and things like that. So if anybody has that kind of thing that they would like to do, just reach out to me. I will probably talk your ear off, but I'll have a good time doing it.
That's awesome, man. Scott, this has been awesome. And one thing too, I want to mention about you, Scott, that I thought was impressive when we first started talking. I said, "Hey, what do we call you, Master Brown, or Grandmaster Brown?" You said, "Just call me Scott." And that's
Yeah.
impressive. That's impressive. But brother, I appreciate you more than you know, and your spirit, your personality, your philosophy is what we're all about out here. Bringing people together, and I love what you're doing. But hey, guys, that's been Scott Brown. He's an amazing guy. As you got a chance to know, he's a great guy. Look him up. Find him on Facebook. Man, you won't be disappointed. So with that, Scott, I appreciate you more than you know, my brother. Now, hopefully, I'll talk to you soon again.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you having me. Thank you very much.
All right, brother. You take care of yourself and tell your wife she's always right.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Take care, brother. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, man.